Hi, this is Jeff Perlman again with Real Software, and today I want to show you how to use the ImageView and Animator Controls to create a simple slideshow. So slideshows are pretty common on the web, and what I've done is built a simple slideshow example project in Web Edition. The photo looks like it's a photo printed and it's sitting on the page itself. It's got a border, it's got a drop shadow, and when you click on the photo it fades away and the next photo slides in. So you can just go through the photos by clicking, and the next one slides in. And those photos are stored in a folder. Here's the folder. It's called Photos, and it's got the photos in it. So you can put in as many photos as you want. So let's see how this project works. I'm going to stop the project. And here we are on the page. The page is pretty simple. It's got an image view to show the current picture. In fact, the image view is called Current Picture. And there's another image view that's invisible, and this image view is used to store the next picture, and that's what it's called, Next Picture. The reason I'm doing this is I don't want there to be any lag time sending the picture from the server, from that photos folder on the server, over to the browser. So as soon as the user clicks on the picture, I've already got the next picture loaded up. You'll also see that the current picture is invisible by default, and that's because you'll see later, I'm going to need to do some positioning of this control on the page, and I don't want the user to see that repositioning and centering, so I'll do all that and then make it visible. Now, to give the current picture a nice border and the drop shadow, I've created a style. I've assigned it a style called Photo Border. You can see that style here. It's got a drop shadow. It's got 20 pixels of padding all the way around, and then a white background so that the border will be white. Okay, next I've got an animator. The animator is doing the fade of the picture and the move of the next picture. And then because animation methods fire at the end of an event, sometimes you can't group them together, or they'll all happen together. So what I've done is I've separated some of the animations, the move, for example, and the resetting of the current image so that it's no longer faded away to nothing. I've separated those into two timers, one to prep the next image and one to move it on screen. And you'll see that in a minute. So I'm going to double click on the page so we can look at the code. And in the open event of the page, I've got a method called load picture files, and all this is doing is it's going into that folder and loading up an array called picture files of all the folder items that represent those pictures. And in that method, I simply check to see if the picture is visible, and if it's visible, then I try to open it as a picture. And if I cannot open it as a picture, or rather, to say a different way, as long as I can, then I know it's a picture, in which case I take the folder item and I append it to the picture files array. So now I've got this array of all of the folder items in the photos folder that are in fact pictures. Next, I'm storing the count in the photo files count property that I've added to my web page here. And I'm doing that because each time the user clicks, you'll see that I'm going to check to see if the count has changed, and if it has, that means that the number of photos in the folder has changed while the app is running. Maybe you've added some, taken some away, and I want to account for that. So at this point, the shown event will fire, because pages have a shown event, and we know that the current picture image view is invisible at the moment, so I can center it. I've got a method called center object, which just takes the width and height and centers the object on the page, and another one to resize it to make sure that the object is the same size, the actual image viewer is the same size as the picture that I've loaded. Finally, now that all that centering and resizing has been done, I set the visible property of the current picture to true. So at that point, the user is looking at the current picture in the browser. Next, the user is going to click on the current picture to move to the next one. So let's take a look at the current picture image view. So here we are in the mouse down event. The first thing I do is use the opacity method of the animator to set the opacity of the current control, the current picture, to 0%, which basically means it's completely faded away to nothing, and to do that over half a second. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is prep the next picture, and that means taking the current picture and making it visible again. So I have to do that in a separate timer. So I have my timer called prep, and I set its mode to single mode, so it'll just fire one time. And after that started, I then check the picture, the number of pictures, and that's what this code is doing. It's basically checking to see if the number of pictures has changed, and then reloading them if it has. So let's go look at the prep timer's action event. And the first thing I do is turn it back off, because it's going to keep executing anyway, but I only need it to execute once, so I turn it off. And then I move the current picture off screen, because I haven't switched the picture yet. So I move it off screen by setting its left coordinate equal to 0 minus its own width, minus 40, which is the border, 20 pixels around on both sides. So I moved it off screen. Then I set the picture property of the current picture to the picture property of the next picture. So now it's off screen and it's got the current picture, or rather got the next picture. Now I've got a property I use called next picture index, and it's designed to keep track of which one I'm on. So it basically checks to see if I'm on the last picture. And if I am, then it sets the next picture to 0, so it'll start over at the beginning. Otherwise it increments it so we can go on to the next picture. Now we need to load up the next picture, because what was the next picture is now the current picture. So we do the same thing we did before. We pass the next picture index to picture files to get the next picture, and then open it with picture.open and assign it to the next picture image view. So we've got it buffered up and it's ready for when the user clicks the mouse again. Then I resize the current picture that's about to be displayed. Then I center it on the vertical axis so that it will slide horizontally onto the screen. Now this is important because not all pictures are going to be the same height, right? So if I want it to be centered always on the page, then I need to recenter the picture based on its height, and that's what this is doing. Finally, the picture is ready, so I call the opacity method of the animator and set the current picture to 100% opacity in 0 seconds. So it immediately becomes visible, but it's still off screen. And then finally, I use another timer called move, and I set its mode to single so that it will fire, and it will start executing the move. So let's look at the move. I'm going to click on the action event of the move, and it's pretty simple. Turns itself off once again, and then it simply figures out where it's going to move the picture to. I've written a routine called left top at center, which basically means if this picture viewer is centered, where its left and top coordinates, and I return them as a pair. Now, if you've never used the pair, if you've never used the pair type before, it's basically just a pair of values. It allows you to return 2 values rather than just 1. And in this case, I need 2 values. I need the left value and I need the top value. So I create a new pair, and you can see it's got 2 values. I initialize it as 0, 0. And then left top at center just returns both values. And again, if you've never used pair, let me show you left top at center so you can see how it works. Basically, I calculate the left and the top, and then I create a new pair, pass in left and top, and return the pair. And then, when you look back at the event we were just on, as we go back to move, it's simply using the left value, which is this one, and the right value, which would be this one. So basically, I've assigned a value to left and I've assigned a value to right, and those are the coordinates. Now, it's a little confusing here because right in this case is really top, but right refers to the right value of the pair. So basically, I'm giving it the coordinates to move to and telling it to do the move in half a second. So that's the slideshow example. It's about 60 lines of code, making it one of the more complex examples that I've shown you. But you can do a tremendous amount with the animator control. You obviously have a lot of control over animation, and I'm sure you guys are going to be able to do lots of really interesting and cool things with the animator control. That's it. Thanks for watching.